is good! Ferris State wins the basketball game!
You got it! Game winner!
Rips the shot and it's a score for Ferris State! What a play right there by the Bulldogs!
And so those are the kind of the guys I really wanted to model my mentality after.
When it's bad weather, it kind of comes down to grit. I think our team has a lot of that.
It's like you lose a game, like it hurts so much.
Like we're very culture-based, and so that's what initially got me here.
You're listening to Behind the Bulldogs, brought to you by Ferris State Athletics.
It's Behind the Bulldogs, Season 4, Episode 34. We're getting up there in episode numbers, and we're getting near the end of this season. It's going to be a good episode. Myself, Joe, along with Brandon, right here in the studio. It's going to be a little bit different of an episode today, Brandon.
It is going to be. We are recapping our 10 favorite moments from this year as we segue into our crossover series starting next week. We'll have Brody Kaiser joining us from Off the Ice, a little partner show across the way. Really excited for the stuff we have in store with that, Joe, but we got to give the people some great things that we got through this year, our first year under the new branded Behind the Bulldogs show, and we really had some fantastic moments that deserve some recognition.
Yeah, it's going to be our favorite 10 episodes, not top 10 because, it's like choosing a favorite child,
of course.
Much. But we got our top 10 episodes from this season. We're going to kind of give like a little precursor, and then we're going to play maybe, 2 or 3 minutes from each interview that we loved, and then kind of just go through it. So we got 10 of them. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, so our top 10 moments, and I guess they're not really necessary in order. 10 of our top moments, I guess you could say.
Yeah, there we go.
And the first one that we have, really starting back from the very beginning, episode 1, the banger that everybody seemed to enjoy the most, our top grossing show with Tony Anise, our Ferris State football head coach, talking about his ties, Joe, and you obviously mentioned in the interview about why he wears a tie, because you don't see a lot of coaches do that, and the story that he brought, it was powerful.
Yeah, it was awesome. Because, you always see a lot of these coaches, they don't really wear like that type of formal wear anymore. That's kind of more of like an 80s, 90s type move. But for him to do that and the story that he gave, that was really cool to see. So without further ado, let's listen to Tony tell us the story.
I do have a question, though. I saw that now you're wearing a patterned gray tie, and last year you were wearing a red tie. Is that like a superstitious kind of change thing, or is it more of just saw it in the closet and you liked it type thing?
So, we get a tie, a new tie every year for the most part until we lose. And so you didn't catch the fact that after we lost to Grand Valley, I changed my tie. And then we never lost from that point on. And then for the new season, I try to get a different tie. And you caught that question in perfect timing because I wear that tie in honor of my dad, who passed away when I was 21 years old. And he wore a tie. And so I'm like, I'm going to wear a tie in honor of my dad. So actually, Coach Hauk asked me, why do you wear a tie? And I said, in honor of my dad. And he goes, have you done it your whole career? I said, 404 games. And he said, that's so cool, because his dad was also a high school head coach. And so it's cool to see. But, that's why I wear it. But I'm changing it now, so I'm going to have to find a new tie. And I just typically give away my old tie to one of the players at the end of the season that I admire the most, who, is graduating. So that's just kind of the thing that I do. Kyle Thompson, back in the day, he graduated. He's a pharmacist now, but he graduated, and his last season was 2016 for us. But he wore the same tie that I wore in the 16 game. We lost to Northwest Missouri State in the semifinals. I gave him the tie, and he wore that tie for graduation. So pretty cool to have that happen.
That's awesome.
How awesome is that? That's cool. Wow, story hits every single time you listen back to it. But that's one of our 10 moments. The second one we had, one of our other great episodes. We were fortunate enough to get Steve Brocklebank, Bill Pink in the room together at the same time to record a podcast. And it was certainly had all of the great things you were looking for as far as how administration, athletics crosses over. But we all know that outside of a lot of that stuff, especially in their busy lives, that there's probably not a lot of opportunity to do some things. And Dr. Pink especially alluded to in this interview that he will take his time to go fishing, and he's not necessarily looking for entertainment, y'all.
Yeah, no, he's a guy who'll just lock in, and especially for this story, talking about ice fishing and stuff, it's very cool to see just what they're passionate about outside of academia and athletics and stuff like that. And that was one of our favorite parts of this interview, and probably one of our favorite interviews that we did from this season.
I would say so. So let's take a look.
And it's been a hot second since both of you guys have been on. Last time, it was a lot warmer out, and it was a lot nicer. And we asked you both, what is it when you do get that free time? Because it's a million miles an hour all the time for both of you. What is it now, especially when it's a lot colder out? What do you guys kind of find yourself doing when you can kind of kick the feet up a little bit, take a load off? What is it now instead of, being outside? Because I know, President Pink, you said you like to fish, you like to golf, and especially for both of you guys, what's it like now when, it's too cold outside to do anything?
Yeah, well, no, actually it's not. So
I guess there is ice fishing. There is ice fishing. I totally forgot about that.
It's funny you ask because I was just sending a text message out to my, I'm blessed to have my wife's family that lives right here in the area. And so I was texting two of my brother-in-laws and my nephew and another friend who lives here in Mecosta County. I texted them last night and said, okay, Sunday afternoon after church, I'm headed for a lake. I'm going to be out on the ice. Do you guys want to go? And so all four of them going, yeah, let's do it. So my downtime on Sunday afternoon is, and they were going, yeah, but we have to be at a lake that has some level of connectivity because we're going to have to stream the Lions game while we're out fishing. Of course. Yeah, you got to be able to do that, right?
No question.
But to me, if I can get out and get out on the ice and get some fishing in on Sunday, that to me is my therapy for Sunday afternoon after church.
So for ice fishing, are you more of the guy who's got all the electronics, the camera in the water? Or are you just more of like a string in the water and see if anything bites?
Yeah, so I don't like wasting time if I'm out there. So if I'm
I respect that.
If I can get my my sonar down, my Garmin, I get that underneath the ice and pop the shanty up and turn the heater on, I can make my own living room if I'm careful enough. But no, I'll have the Garmin out, and if I'm drilling holes, I just want to make sure there's something down there below me so that I'm not just standing there with the hook in the water with nothing under there but sand and gravel. So I do a little bit of cheating, but I'm also, and telling you, listener, don't hate me for it, but I'm also, when I fish, I don't fish for entertainment and sport. If I'm fishing, I'm bringing dinner home and my wife is going to be happy.
Might have some new fishing buddies on the podcast. This next one is with the dynamic duo that you hear every time you tune in to broadcasts from Ferris State Athletics. It's Rob and Sandy. Those two guys are incredible mentors from us, and to be able to get them on and hear their stories and stuff, it's just super cool.
Yeah, and for me and Joe being as broadcasters, we've had our fair share of travel, but as you're about to hear in about 10 seconds, nothing compared to what they've been through so far here at Ferris.
Yeah, no shot. So without further ado, let's give it a listen.
Absolutely. And me and Joe in our time, especially hearing from you guys, as well as Harrison Watt, shout out to him as well from his time. There's a lot of stories that can go from broadcasting games, and that can take you from sometimes one city to another city to another city in the span of 3 nights. Is there any memorable memories that you're going to be like, man, I will never forget this brutal trip or this mining moment where we had to go from this place to this place, getting into a hotel, lake? What are some of those stories?
He's got one coming up. I definitely have one. I remember one just a few years ago. We had a home basketball tournament, and obviously, when you're a staff like us, you have to get every event covered. So we had a home basketball tournament, and I think a home hockey game as well. So I was here on a Friday night helping out in those events. And I told Sandy, well, we're going to leave at 10 o'clock. So we're going to leave at 10 o'clock to drive to Houghton, Michigan to be there for a noon kickoff the next day. And it was all going well. I think we leave Cadillac. I got pulled over for speeding. Fortunately, got a warning for that one. And that was just the start of the trip. So we eventually got to Munising about 4 a.m. and we're in a blizzard. We were not expecting snow here in the first week of November, and it must have taken us 3 hours to get from Munising to Marquette. We finally got there at daylight, and it was tough. It was a long stretch driving on that, and ended up making it to Houghton, got there with a little time to spare, did the game. But, we've had a couple trips up there. We had another trip just a couple years ago. I took my daughter on the trip with us. And, that's a big reason I, love football, is being with Sandy and being able to experience those game days, those trips together. He's been gracious enough to put up with my 2 daughters when they went on trips with us. And it's always an experience with them. But, a couple years ago we were up there and got done broadcasting another game at Michigan Tech, which happened to be in the snow, and left campus, and we didn't even make it off campus and ended up running into a curb, and it took out the tire on our car. And
Oh, no.
There was nowhere to fix it at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. So we had to end up staying overnight and renting a car at the airport in Houghton the next day to get us home. So we've had a couple memorable trips. It seems like every time it happens, it's to Houghton, Michigan.
Well, at least with the accident, though, at least we got Ambassador Pizza. So we were able to, that's great pizza. If you ever go up to Houghton and you're going to Michigan Tech, got to go to the Ambassador and get some of that pizza.
Real cool stuff from Rob and Sandy. Our fourth and fifth come from the same episode, and this is one of me and Joe's personal favorites, knowing these guys especially very well in our time working. Cedric Frierson, Quintin Zinger. I mean, especially the open goes and alludes back to the episode of 11, which was the one that actually won us an award, which is ironic because I really became unprofessional for about 10 seconds, and it worked out really well for us in the end.
It was a real funny time, and especially being Quintin's former roommate, it was just cool to chat up with the guys and just have a nice conversation.
Now I'm back officially, so happy fifth day to me.
Absolutely. Yes.
Welcome back, man.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, Q is in the same class as me and Joe. So it goes
He was
full
also
circle.
my roommate.
Yes, I lived with Joe for 2 years. I think I met Joe literally like the first weekend.
Yeah, we met welcome weekend.
Yeah,
playing cornhole.
We played cornhole against each other.
And we showed up in class this next day.
I feel like that deserves like a good Skee-Yee.
He brought it back. Oh my gosh.
I'm out.
Yeah, Joe,
You can keep doing it.
Joe is gone. Joe is gone. For those that, if you haven't listened to episode 11, go back. I made a reference for Cedric. Now he's on the show to do it
Dead to
himself.
me, Cedric.
Cedric, I'm giving you a round of applause. Joe is probably going to punch you after this episode's over.
I'm just gonna play Type Racer on my computer.
But anyway.
We were just listening to Q and Cedric, and guess what? Another part of the interview from Q and Cedric was such a nice conversation, we had to have it twice. So looking forward to it.
It involved a thesaurus on the word thievery, very close to it. So you'll take a listen and find out what we're talking about.
And like you had mentioned too, with like promos and stuff and fan engagement, Cedric, if you do have any ideas or want to see anything, give me a call. I'll be on the athletic staff page soon.
It's a nice little plug-in right there.
It's a shameless plug.
If you're a business owner.
I was going to say, you're not on the page yet. You haven't made the family quite
Not yet. We got to get some situations covered, and then I'll be up there, but we'll get there soon.
It's like, I get a new headshot from what you had before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of headshots that might need to be updated. So, but, oh yeah, for sure. But especially from the idea generating perspective, I mean, there's hundreds, thousands of universities across that you can have access to just with going on your cell phone. When it comes to the ideas that you guys have had, obviously, Cedric, you created the fast break suites that have debuted here for basketball, and Q's obviously got a lot of ideas coming from Texas. Where do you guys get a lot of those ideas from, like, as far as in-person experience or searching online, like, oh, hey, I found something that this school does. Maybe we should try that out.
A lot of the things we do, I hate to say this, but just kind of like stealing them from other schools. I mean, other schools come up with great ideas. I'm not saying that they don't. Everybody steals from us.
You get inspired by other schools.
Yes, inspiration. Yeah. That's the right word right there. It's not stealing, it's inspiration.
Which every school steals from each other. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. Yeah.
Number 7 on this list actually comes in a very interesting time for me and Joe. This was the one major audible we had to call all year when we were snowed in from the studio. So we had a fortunate opportunity to call in Nyah Tyron of women's track and field. And during that time, Joe found a new listening buddy for his favorite artist.
Yeah, not going to spoil it, but we're buddies with that, which is very cool.
Especially when going back to music a little bit, there's a lot of different kinds of hype music when it comes to track and field. I feel like, what's kind of your niche genre or favorite artist even that you like to go to every time?
100% George Strait. That's country. I would listen to him every day.
Wow.
I would say the same. George Strait is my favorite.
You are talking to the number one George Strait fan in Joe that I have ever met, Nyah. This is incredible.
I was going to say, what was the stats on your Spotify rap for George Strait? Was it pretty up there?
Oh, yeah. He was like my second.
Yeah,
wow.
Big time.
That's crazy. All right, here we go. Nyah, you first. What's the number one George Strait song on your playlist?
Oh, wait, no, not Good Time. That's Alan Jackson. I have to look. There's so many. Let me look real quick.
I was going to say, mine's got to be Stars on the Water by George Strait. That's probably, that one just gets you in a good mood.
Here for a Good Time.
Oh,
The classic.
okay.
That's a good one.
Both very good choices. Wow. Who would have thought about that? That's crazy. So
This next one is probably one of our favorite intros, but also probably the most awkward one we've ever had.
Goodness, yeah.
Caught us a little bit off guard, but we were able to laugh it off. And especially with Josh being our guest. I mean, you were expecting it, but he's just a great guy.
He is a great guy, and he really likes to keep it light, and he certainly kept us on our toes with his interview, and it created one of the most funniest moments and loudest laughs that we've ever had in our studio.
That's a loaded question right there. So I grew up pretty much my whole life in Grand Rapids. I got 2 holes in my nose, and I'm missing 5 fingers. So
Pretty simple.
What a start.
Pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Josh doesn't have a hand, by the way.
Yeah.
If you didn't know that. So yeah, cool. Next question for you, Josh.
you're ready for that one, were you?
Yeah, caught us off on a
Wait, you
curveball.
want to hear the story behind it?
I think, we do want to hear the story behind it.
Yeah. So have you ever stuck your fingers in that little vacuum tube behind a Hoover?
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I was born like that. So that's always a pretty popular question that gets asked. So clarify that up. Or, we can just go with the it got bitten off by a shark. Big fan of that one as well.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one for
It's
sure.
just so much
If
more interesting.
you say it with enough gusto and confidence, people don't.
Well,
people don't
yeah, it
question
was, obviously it was a great white shark as well. So
Yeah, in Lake Michigan, a great white just came out of nowhere.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
shark.
Yeah, watch out for him. Thanks to Josh for always keeping us on our toes each and every time we see him. But it was a great bit, as well as this one, Joe. Super cool story, kind of going back to something very similar to we had beginning with Tony, talking to Logan Stein about his story and being able to play for the United States of America. Super cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. And this was one of the episodes that won us our award. So that was the coolest part.
Yeah, it feels like obligated we had to put one of these in there.
We just had to toss it in, but it's very cool to see. I mean, especially with him playing with so many NHL level talent. It's awesome to see. So without further ado, let's get it.
For you, a real unique experience when you were able to play at World Juniors. Just talk about that experience wearing the United States colors. And I mean, I can't even imagine what that would have felt like just to play for your home country.
Yeah, I mean, the years maybe 10 months before that, we played in the World Junior A Challenge, and that was super awesome. We played that in Dawson Creek, Canada. And that was my first time wearing the jersey. And I remember hearing the national anthem. We were playing Canada in the opening game of the tournament. And I remember just feeling like chills standing on the blue line, like hearing the national anthem. And it was just like, this is something bigger than like just this team, right? It's way bigger than that. And this means a lot more. And having that USA on your shirt and walking around and even the team apparel, the team jacket, it just feels different, right? You're representing your country. And I think it's every hockey player's dream. I remember thinking about that laying in bed at night when I was 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After you watch Miracle, right? It's
Of
my
course.
favorite move ever. And like, that's the only thing I ever really wanted to make sure I accomplished was representing my country.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, you have to bring Kurt Russell on the show a little bit. Maybe we get a little
Legs feed the
tandem
wolf,
going.
man. Legs feed the wolf. What were some of them are escaping me, but what were some of the names of the guys that are on the team? Because there's some pretty big names that are.
Yeah,
that are
so
on
we
the
had
team,
like
right?
Zegras and Caulfield. We had
Whoa.
Jake Sanderson.
Whoa.
Kaliev, Turcotte. I mean, we were Beniers. Our team was loaded top to bottom. I mean, I think a lot of the media portrayed it as Canada's tournament to lose. I think they had every player on the team was a first rounder in the NHL. But I think internally with that squad, I think we knew how good we were. And I think obviously the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And our next interview is with Justin Jackson. He was one of the guys who just came in. He had a little bit of culture shock when it came to just being a Bulldog. Now, and that was one of the coolest things to see him assimilate, but also just become a part of this group that just makes it so much fun to show up to work every day and be a Ferris State Bulldog.
It is. His uniqueness of working 3 different jobs, and especially as we highlight the difference of going from the giant state of Florida to the seemingly small state of Michigan, certainly brings its unique, you could say, challenges.
You mentioned being from Miami and then now coming to Big Rapids. The biggest difference is the size. What have you enjoyed so far about living in small town USA when compared to from where you're from and stuff like that?
Dude, it takes 3 seconds to get anywhere. That's gotta be the best, right? Like, I live like maybe 8 minutes from here, and most days it takes me 5, right? So in the summer when a lot of people aren't here, it takes even less time, but it's really interesting. Like, everything is exactly as far as you think it is. Like, if something is 15 miles away, you'd be there in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But in Miami, it's a whole different ballgame. Like, my high school was I think like 6.5 miles from my house. It took me 35 minutes to get there every day.
Jeez.
So it's just like that I think is the biggest advantage. And everyone's a lot nicer. Everyone's a lot nicer here. Like it's just, there's a community feel, and like everybody's just kind of looking out for one another. Miami is a little dog eat dog, and you know, it's interesting, but you know, I think being a part of that space has kind of built a nice callus of not really worrying about too many things on a day-to-day basis, and kind of just letting things roll off your shoulder, which, you know, in a small town, I think that's super helpful, because, you know, there's not as many obstacles that roll in on a day-to-day basis that could, you know, throw off my day in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that the small town, I understand why people like being over here and being in this small area for sure.
Our last bit we have for you guys, number 10, is from Coach Doren of men's and women's tennis. And he had a very unique opportunity leaving college that does not even like barely remotely connect to the sport of tennis, but involves something much bigger than sports.
Yeah, it's super cool to hear his history. I actually ran into him at the golf course the other day. Frequent friend and listener of the pod, Coach Doren. So appreciate you.
Wow, interesting. But here's a very interesting look on a unique life journey and a stop for Coach Doren before he decided to coach college tennis.
One thing I was going to ask you, I found on your bio, I don't think I asked you this last time, it says that you were an aircraft armament systems individual with the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
Just talk about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, it totally different. You know, I came to Ferris in 1995 for one semester, and I was in the professional tennis management program. I knew what I wanted to do in life, but I didn't realize I was not ready to continue my education. I just wasn't in the right mind spot, and just in my life. So I had two older brothers that were in the Air Force. My father had been in the Air Force, and I just knew that was an option that might help me grow up, just kind of experience life a little bit more. So, I mean, I was, when I was young, I barely ever used a screwdriver. I didn't know what I was doing. And I took this job, they're like, oh, this is 1995. So they're like, the future is in computers, and this is all about, computer systems and launching systems. And I took a job that basically I was a mechanic on an F-16 loading bombs and missiles every day. And every day they go up and they come down and something has to be fixed. So I was a guy pushing, a toolbox down a flight line, fixing bombs and missiles every day, wow. which is something that's absolutely crazy. Never would have thought I would have done it. And I'm still surprised I did do it. But it was such a great opportunity. I mean, obviously I think, in my family, serving our country was a big deal. And, I have two brothers that retired from the military. And, so it was a great experience. Got to be live all over the world, spend some time in Europe, which was so cool. And, but yeah, it's quite the jump from loading bombs and missiles to teaching tennis. But somehow I ended up back here doing what I always knew I wanted to do, but in a better spot. And it's I wouldn't trade any of that experience for anything.
That is our top 10, not necessarily in order, but our favorite moments from this past season. Thanks so much for listening. And also thank you, because without you, this podcast would not be possible.
Absolutely. It's been a great year, and me and Joe, especially from our talks already, we are so excited for season 2. So until we see you on next week's episode,
take care, everybody.